What's up guys, welcome to the Chess Giant. This is Solomon Ordell, and in today's video we recap Game 4 of the 2021 World Chess Championship match being held between Carlsen and Nepo. Now up to this point, we've seen 3 draws with 1.5 points each side, and here we see the birthday boy Magnus Carlsen playing with the white pieces and Nepo with the black. Now in Game 2 of this match, we saw Carlsen start off with d4, but in this game he switches things up and plays the move e4, in which case Nepo responds with e5, and we now see knight f3. Now the most popular move here for black is knight c6, just trying to defend the pawn on e5, in which case Carlsen probably would have entered into the Ruy Lopez with bishop b5. However, here we see Nepo go with the very strong defensive system with the Petrov's defense. Knight f6, going, look, I'm not even going to defend my pawn. You want to attack my pawn? Okay, I'm going to attack yours. Here we see Carlsen take the pawn on e5, and here Nepo continued with the best move of d6. But just to give you a quick little tip, if you're ever playing against the Petrov's defense and you reach this position, you snatch off that pawn, and then black decides to snatch off the pawn as well, here you are simply better. We're not going to play a move like queen f3, and we're definitely not going to play a move like knight c3 or just keep developing our pieces. We actually have a dangerous idea, and that is queen e2 attacking this knight. Now notice, if this knight really goes anywhere, including the square knight f6, we have knight c6 with check against the king. And notice here as well, we're attacking the queen on d8, and this knight also attacks the square of e7. We're simply about to win a queen. Following queen e2, if black doesn't move this knight on e4 and instead plays the best move of queen e7, whole idea being they lose a piece, but then they're able to play d6, whole idea being that this knight cannot move unless we want to lose our queen. Well, they are going to get the piece back. However, we can play d4, defending the knight on e5, and then the very next move, take back. And here, guys, we're simply up a pawn. We're going to continue to naturally develop our pieces, and white is simply much, much better here. So again, guys, going back to this position, if you're ever playing with white against the Petrov's defense and you see this move, knight takes e4, play queen e2, and you're going to have yourself a very nice game. Here we see the move d6, and then once the knight runs away, then captures on e4 from Nepo. And here from Carlsen, we see d4 advancing in the center of the board, and now we see d5. Now from this point, we just see natural developmental chess from both sides, bishop d3, bishop d6, and both sides castling. And now we see Carlsen play c4, attacking the pawn on d5, which is a key defender for the knight on e4. So Nepo gives that pawn some support with the move c6, and we now see the good move rook e1. I like this move here. This rook is much more active than it was on the f1 square. And actually here in this position, guys, we're threatening to just take the knight on e4 and then simply go up a pawn. So here we see Nepo continue with bishop f5, defending that minor piece, and now we see Carlsen continue with queen b3, putting direct pressure on b7 and also putting a little bit of pressure on that pawn on d5. And here Nepo defends both with the move queen d7. Now some of you may be wondering, wait a second, why can't we just take the pawn on d5 and simply go up a pawn here? Well, the issue with this is that now black can play bishop takes h2 with check, whole idea being they're simply going to win our queen on d5 and white simply losing. So guys, if you ever see a position like this in chess, a queen with a bishop in front of it, always be careful of taking any piece or even going in the way of this file, because every once in a while, black could have ideas like bishop takes h2, and you're about to lose a queen. So here from Carlsen, we just see knight c3, putting even more pressure on d5, and also putting a little bit of pressure on that knight on e4. So here Nepo takes the knight on c3, and now from Carlsen, a nice little intermediate move, bishop takes f5, and after queen takes f5, here Carlsen continues by taking the knight on c3, but there was a very interesting variation with queen takes b7. Now Carlsen didn't opt for this, but basically by doing this, he is now attacking the rook and the knight on c3. Nepo was probably planning on playing queen d7, whole idea being if queen takes a8, black is able to play knight a6. And yes, white is up a little bit of material at the moment. However, as you guys can see, this queen is simply trapped, nowhere to go. You might as well take the rook on f8. And actually, if you plug this into a computer program, it's going to tell you that white has a +1 advantage. Should have Carlsen went for this? I'm going to say no. From a practical standpoint, this is just a very hard position to play, and I think that he made the right call. If white doesn't want to take 2 rooks in exchange from the queen, white could just take on d7, and then the very next move, play c5. f5. Now as white, we would love for black to play a move like bishop c7, and then we could just take the knight on c3, and guys, we're simply going to be up a pawn. However, in this position, black can just play the move bishop takes h2 a check. Whole idea being, yes, they lose the bishop, but in return, they get to save the knight by playing a move like knight e4, and I would put this position at just about dead even, maybe a slight advantage for white, but black should be okay in this game. So again, guys, here at move 12, Carlsen could have taken on b7, and that would have led to a very interesting game. But here he just plays the quiet move b takes c3, and now black continues with b6, in which case we now see c takes c5. And now after c takes d5, we see queen b5 from Carlsen, just expanding down the queen side of the board and really trying to get a grip on the light squares, a6, c6, d7, all the way down to that square on e8, and also putting a little bit of pressure on d5. Here we see Nepo play queen d7, and yet again, guys, do not fall into the trap of taking this pawn when you see a queen hiding behind the bishop. This may look innocent, but bishop takes h2, and all of a sudden, you're going to lose your queen. So here we see Carlsen play a4, simply defending the queen on b5, and here Nepo wastes no time and just taking the queen right off the board, and then playing the move a5, creating a passed pawn. Here Carlsen could have played en passant by taking on a6, but here we just see Carlsen continue with knight h4, really trying to get some activity on the king side of the board, looking to play knight f5, attacking that bishop on d6. And here Nepo doesn't want to allow Carlsen to play a move like knight f5, activating that knight. So we see the move g6. And now from Carlsen, we see a very nice and really strategic maneuver with g4, followed by knight g2, all for the purpose of playing the move bishop f4. Here Nepo plays a good developmental move with rook c8, just putting that rook on the semi-open file, attacking the pawn on c3. But guys, here we don't see Carlsen playing passive chess with a move like bishop d2 or bishop b2, but simply playing bishop f4. Whole idea being, if rook takes c3 right now, we're simply going to win that bishop on d6. And how the game went was Nepo taking on f4 and then capturing the pawn on c3. But now we see Carlsen just take the pawn on d5, and we're evening out the material. Now again, Nepo plays the move rook d3. Guys, in a position like this, it is very tempting to play defensive and passive chess with a move like rook e4, defending the pawn, or a move like rook a4, defending the pawn. But here we see Carlsen play rook e7, and black has to be very careful here. We see the move knight f8, and this is the only move that keeps black in this game. If the move rook d8 is played, we're simply going to capture that knight on d7. Beautiful idea. If rook takes d7 back, well, we just play knight f6, and all of a sudden, we're simply up a piece. We're going to take on b6. This position is resignable for black. So guys, rook d8 doesn't work because we simply take on d7 with the idea of giving up the exchange, but then getting that rook right back for nothing. What about the move knight b8? Well, first off, this isn't a very active square. This knight literally cannot move to a square like a6, c6, or d7 without being captured. And on top of that, this rook on a8 cannot move either. So really, this is just disastrous for black. But on top of that, we could always just take the pawn on b6, and as you guys can see, this rook is trapped, and white's simply winning. So here we see black just continue with the move knight f8, and now we see Carlsen play knight f6 check, knight e8 check, and then the very next move, d5. I really like this move from Carlsen. Again, if rook takes d5, okay, I'll give you the pawn, but I'm going to get your rook right back. But now we see black not playing defensive chess either. Nepo could have been really worried about this pawn on d5, but here he just plays the move a4, throwing his pawn down the queen side of the board. And now Carlsen continues with knight f6 check, and following king g7, plays g5, solidifying the positioning of this knight. And now following a3, we see knight e8 with check. Now here Nepo plays king g8. Black could have played the move king h8, whole idea being if rook takes f7, they simply win the knight. But after that, I mean, we're just going to play knight c7, take the pawn on f7, and true, it's still a draw, but we're all going to be sitting back and wondering why on earth did Nepo just give up a pawn for nothing at all. So here we see the move king g8 from Nepo, and here, guys, Carlsen spent quite a bit of time trying to figure out what to do. Although really in this position, guys, it's just hard for white to push for the win. I mean, even if white plays a move like d6, advancing down the center of the board, black now can activate this knight by playing knight e6, attacking the pawn on g5. And if a move like h4, play rook d8. There's just not much going on for white here, and I can totally see why Carlsen did not opt for a position like this. So here, guys, instead of Carlsen trying to push for a win against Nepo, which probably wouldn't have worked out with a move like d6 or h4, and king g2. Keep in mind, this pawn on a3 is very dangerous. Carlsen here just plays the move knight f6 check, king g7, knight e8 check, and all of a sudden, after king g8 and knight f6, we have a threefold repetition, and all of a sudden, this series is tied 2-2. Guys, it's been a very interesting match. Every game has looked a little bit different. I mean, game one, Carlsen was on the initiative, really trying to fight for the win, but we saw a draw. Game two was absolutely insane, but somehow it ended up being a draw. And then game three and game four were both pretty calm. Not a ton to show, not a ton of tension. The game fizzled out pretty quickly. So let me know down below what you think of these games and what you think is going to happen tomorrow morning at game 5. Who do you think is going to win this match, and who do you think is playing the best chess so far? Thanks for watching today's video. If you'd like to see game 2 of the World Chess Championship, click the video to the left. If you'd like to see our openings playlist, click that video to the right. Leave a comment down below to let me know what other videos you'd like to see covered on this channel. And as always, I appreciate you guys. Thanks for watching. Peace.